the final episode of every week, courtesy of our friends at the DQs of Northwest Edmonton. We invite you to send us an email to give us your hot take. That's exactly what we're looking for. We want to hear it. It's the Flamethrower, presented by the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park. And Ron writes in and he says, Jess, I respect the whole idea of having a wide range of perspectives on the show, but oof, he says, I truly believe that the guests on August 28th were some of the worst I've ever heard on Real Talk. They were defensive for no reason. They had no reason to behave like they did. They felt like bad faith actors looking to pick a fight. In the simplest terms, says Ron, they needed to chill. And I'm not quite sure that I'm better informed after hearing such a combative and confrontational interview on their part. I respect your dedication to maintaining professionalism because I know that I wouldn't have. That from Ron. What about this one from Nat, who says, upon reflection, I am positive that lawyer, Jeff Rath, the arrogant, aggressive nitwit linked to the Hillbilly Alberta Prosperity Project on your show, is wearing a tinfoil hat as he spewed baseless vitriol across the airwaves. Can anyone give me an example of a single Canadian who ever received the vaccine against their will? I mean, since this is Alberta, am I safe to assume that somebody, saw ratchet straps being used to hold the unwilling participant down? Come on. My favorite part was the pompous statement, not even the humility of an insinuation that the entire Canadian medical system was involved in a systemic charade. Has he ever met a doctor? These people are well-educated business owners who are not interested in your dark web deep dives. And it's unfortunate that he wasted all that money on a law degree only to make a name for himself backing people who have less than a 6th grade student's understanding of how science works. What a load of absolute fucking nonsense. But also, Ryan, thanks for a great show, and thanks for pushing back on that overbearing bastard banging move to share acetaminophen stats. Okay, that from Nat. Megan says, wow, yeah, okay, passion, but maybe passion for the wrong thing? Maybe that's why that guy chose his profession as a lawyer. Yeah, vaccines do good for everybody, but there's always risk in everything that anybody does. That from Megan. What about this from MJ, who says, Jespo, I'm a regular listener. I'm always open to a good fact-based discussion, so I had to give your vaccine lawsuit episode a listen. Listen, 0.01% of the population who have been injured by the vaccine do deserve to be heard and possibly receive some kind of financial compensation, but that doesn't mean that vaccine injury is as widespread, as these lawyers would have you believe. I made it 10 minutes into that show before I wanted to pull the fucking hair out of my head. That esteemed ambulance chaser brought up issues with myocarditis in the vaccine, but failed to mention that a COVID infection results in significantly higher rates of myocarditis. Jespo here, that's what Paul Parks talked about on October 29th. Back to MJ, says he also failed to mention that the number of people with long COVID far outstrips the number of people who have been injured by the vaccine. A simple internet search will provide you with in-depth studies and articles from legitimate sources on vaccine safety. Now, I would have loved to hear a doctor with significant knowledge at the same time as those lawyers. At the same time, sure, but no doctor would agree to go on with them, to be honest. Says, I don't expect you to be able to fact-check everything that comes out of people's mouths in real time, but anecdotes regarding vaccine injury don't mean shit if they're not backed up with evidence. That's what I said about being in front of the court, right? MJ says, again, the 0.01% of people who are injured by the vaccine do deserve to be heard, but no more than the 99.9% that had no issues. That from MJ. What about this one from Mike, who says, Jess, I listened to your episode about the class action lawsuit and vaccines. That lawyer, absolutely infuriating. It was like he went to the Alex Jones School of Communication, rattling off dozens of facts without allowing any time for interjection or follow-up on what he just spewed. I'm not saying that everything he said is wrong, but I feel like he's going with the move of spitting out as much as he can in one breath so that people can't keep up. I pity the judge that's inevitably going to have to reel him in countless times when this hits the courts. He says, dude, just admit you're afraid of needles and move on. The grievances about the pandemic and response will always be their crutch to lean on. This was once in a century occurrence, hopefully. Now, do I think government got everything right? No. Do I think it could have been handled better? Yes. But to sit there and say that this was some sort of grand conspiracy put together by multiple governments, big pharma, doctors, and nurses is idiotic. But Jespo, I'll give you full marks for giving that oxygen thief an avenue to express his point of view despite how much damage it did to my own blood pressure. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Mike. And this one from Greg, who's talking about the move the Premier says she'll make, pulling hospitals away from Alberta Health, handing him over to Covenant Health, the Catholic operator. Greg says, we're regular listeners of Real Talk. We find it informative and balanced. I'm writing in response to the Premier's plan to change rural hospital administration because they're, underachieving? I find it concerning, especially if a religious-based provider is used. Covenant Health brings religious bias into healthcare delivery. They don't allow medical assistance in dying. They don't allow emergency birth control. They certainly don't perform abortions. Religion should have no place in healthcare. Religious beliefs are personal choice. I object to having somebody impose their belief on me, especially if it determines the type of healthcare I can obtain. What makes the Premier think that Covenant Health can do any better? Just look at what religion did in residential schools. The Premier's not being truthful with us. The fact that Covenant Health had to temporarily close ERs in Bonnyville and kill them due to staffing issues, is she ill-informed or is she ignoring facts to push her own agenda? How is changing administration going to help rural patients if they no longer have access to certain procedures or services? Paul Parks talked about this. Check out the episode. Now, apparently these rights and choices, says Greg, don't align with elements of society that are seen as directly influencing the Premier. When she talks about injecting fear into the healthcare system, I think she's afraid if she doesn't do as she's advised, she'll be turfed as party leader. Greg, you might be right. So who's really in control? Is it good governance strategy? Fear? I don't think so, and I don't think Danielle Smith is governing for all Albertans. That from Greg, who in true Canadian fashion signs off, best regards. These are all real emails to talk@ryanjesperson.com. We welcome your feedback. And as always, the Flamethrower presented by our friends at the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park. Real Talk will be observing the stat on Monday. We will see you back here live on Tuesday. In the meantime, stay safe, friends, and one love.